Hi everyone, this video is all about extinction procedures and why we typically want to combine extinction procedures with other interventions. So think of extinction as discontinuing reinforcement contingent on behaviors that have resulted in reinforcement in the past. So let's say a student in our classroom, typically multiple times during class, runs, grabs their electronic device, their tablet, whatever else it is, logs on and begins playing something that they're not supposed to be doing. Okay. And what we do as part of an extension procedure is we lock that tablet. That way that student can no longer log in and access those fun games that they were typically finding reinforcement through in the past. Okay. That's an example of an extension procedure. We are discontinuing reinforcement. In this case, access to the tablet contingent on a behavior that has resulted in reinforcement in the past, running to the tablet and logging in. Okay. I'm going to explain three common components of extension procedures, hopefully through a fun example of a vending machine. Okay, so when I was going through my doctoral program, I had night classes, and oftentimes I forgot to pick up dinner or make dinner, and so I would stop at the vending machine and get something to eat before class. Okay, and this vending machine on our campus, maybe the worst vending machine ever. Okay, it rarely worked as it was intended to. So I would put in, try to get my pretzels, whatever else it was, and the pretzels wouldn't come out, but I'd already put in my money. All right, so what do you do in that situation? You say, oh, if I just put in more money, I'll get 2 bags of pretzels instead of one. So you put in more money. And then you're like, well, they're both right there. I bet if I put in money one more time, I'll get 3 bags of pretzels and I'll be good for a couple weeks. And so you put in more money, you still don't get your pretzels. What do? Some of you might be thinking, well, I'll just walk away and find a different vending machine, or I'll just be hungry that night. Some of you might say, I'm going to kick that machine, shake it until those pretzels come out. Okay. Well, we'll come back to those different types of responses in a little bit. Okay. But you say, you know what? I'm done with this vending machine. It keeps taking my money. I never get my food. I'm never using this vending machine again. And then maybe 2, 3 weeks later, you're running late for your class and you say, you know what? They must have fixed that vending machine by now. I bet it's working. And you put your money in and you don't get pretzels again. No big surprise. And you say, I'm never using this again. Okay, so what does this have to do with extinction? Okay, so extinction bursts is a temporary increase in the frequency or intensity of problem behaviors. Okay, think of that as putting your money in, not getting pretzels, and you put your money in again and again, thinking that you'll get more and more pretzels. Okay. That's a vending machine example of an extinction burst. What does it look like in the classroom? Maybe you have a student calling out for attention and you say, you know what, I'm going to implement planned ignoring and I'm going to discontinue reinforcement contingent on calling out. You're implementing an extinction procedure. Okay, that student is unless your students are different than mine, that student is unlikely to stop calling out. What they're likely to do is to call out even more frequently, looking for that reinforcement they had gotten in the past through attention. Maybe they start calling out louder. Okay, that's an example of an extinction burst. It's the old saying, behavior gets worse before it gets better. That's the extinction burst, a temporary increase in the frequency or intensity of the problem behavior. Okay, something else that can happen, going back to my example of shaking the machine and kicking it. Okay, extinction-induced aggression. Okay, that's not uncommon with extinction procedures. Maybe putting a behavior on extinction, planned ignoring for the calling out behavior maintained by attention. Maybe that student begins to engage in verbal or physical aggression intended to access that attention that they're no longer getting. Okay, that's extinction-induced aggression, which, as you can imagine, is a very difficult component of extinction procedures to tolerate, especially in school settings. Okay, spontaneous recovery is the last thing I wanted to talk about, and that's similar to the extinction burst, but it's not right after you put an extinction procedure into effect. It's typically a couple weeks later. Okay, and what's happening is that student's saying, hey, like this behavior hasn't resulted in reinforcement, but let me try it again. Maybe it'll work this time. Okay. And a lot of times educators think it's a sign that extinction procedures aren't working when really it's just a natural component of extinction procedures. That's going back to that vending machine a couple weeks later and saying, maybe I'll finally get my food. Okay. And you don't get it. You say you're never doing it again. Okay. So generally speaking, if we can be consistent with extinction procedures, we can tolerate extinction bursts and spontaneous recovery and continue to be consistent. We'll see a decrease and maybe an elimination of problem behaviors. The problem is we can't always tolerate that extinction burst and that spontaneous recovery. Maybe it's a behavior that's really stigmatizing, that's dangerous, that's unsafe. Okay. In these cases, tolerating that extinction burst and spontaneous recovery, as well as extinction-induced aggression, is incredibly problematic. And so that's why we typically want to combine extinction procedures with other procedures like differential reinforcement, which I talk about in some of my other videos. Think differential reinforcement, reinforcing some behaviors, not others. Maybe we're reinforcing the absence of the problem behavior or a desired behavior or an increase in expected behaviors, but not that problem behavior itself. So just a few reasons to combine extinction procedures with other interventions. Thanks, everyone.